Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hearing News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat.
How you feeling, little guy? How you feeling?
I've been fucking rat-assed all day. I've caught some sort of cold that's been going around. My workmates have had it. My partner's had it. Now it's my turn.
Nice.
So, yes, low energy buzz probably for me today, unless I get angry enough and can power through it.
Well,
what are the chances of that?
Just so you know as well, you do sound a bit echoey. Are you away from your microphone again? Is it miles from your face? Just a little bit. No?
Oh,
is there?
And look what I found. I'll put it near my mouth.
That sounds better now. Yeah, good to have you. Glad to have you with us. So busy old night. Busy old day, actually. I'm trying to find a te reo tutor at the moment because I'm doing this course at the Wānanga, and I feel like that I'm driving at 40 k's an hour and the course and everyone else in the class is driving at about 60. so they keep getting just a bit further away and a bit further and a bit further. So I caught up with someone from university today. I'm going to try and get myself a tutor as well to see if I can get that speed back up again. Other than that, busy day. I hope everyone had a chance to listen to Craig's podcast released this morning. If you didn't, of course, it'll be there over the weekend. And we're hoping to be within 2 weeks of Gary Piender's new podcast as well. So busy times here at the DOC. And here we are. I also, and it was just really a catch up, nothing, no nefarious, or not nefarious, no kind of secret things going on. But I managed to catch up with Bomber today, just on the phone, just had a chat with him and a catch up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's doing well. Good things going on for him, and we will catch up with him some stage in the not too distant future when he can tell all of you lovely people about what's going on in his life at the moment.
Secrets.
No real secrets. It was just genuinely how you going. Catch up while I was walking the dog.
What a wonderful way to cover the fact that you're full of secrets.
I'm full of secrets. All right, guys. Hey, look, Julie Ann Genter is with us, and we want to talk about day 3. Is it day 3 that women no longer receive any money for any work they do? Have I got that right? Is that that's it? That's the thing, eh? It's like all salaries have been put to zero for women. Have I got that right? No? Yes?
This is kind of like when The Onion does one of their satire ones, and you just like it's the satire is too good because it might be true. Like I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? From what I was reading today, National didn't know what was happening 2 days ago.
Got that story.
Just haphazard and hurtful. I'm imagining that's their slogan for the election next year.
And interesting, Christopher Luxon gave a pre-budget speech today where he said that the net capital allowance, which is the money one needs to pay for things, has increased by about 400 million. I wonder where they just found another $400 million. Oh, what we should probably say is thank you, women of New Zealand, for giving the government another $400 million for their upcoming budget. So well done them.
Just so I'm clear about who we're talking about here.
Yes, did I say something wrong?
We are talking about Christopher Luxon.
Yes.
This Christopher Luxon.
You need to take the screen. Oh, good grief.
The bald man with the hood up on his overalls and a hairnet over top of that. That Christopher Luxon?
Why have they got hairnets over their hoods?
Look, I'm sure they know what they're doing.
No. Look at the two in the background. Someone's taking the piss. You know, like when your kid's old enough to be put into the service station to go, could you go ask them for some blinker fluid, and giving them $20, and then they realize there's no such thing as blinker fluid. That's what's happened there. The people have gone, we need to be extra safe. You guys need to wear hairnets as well. He wouldn't need to wear a hairnet if he had no hood on.
He has 2 hairnets on.
Good grief.
Look, there. That's a hairnet. Hood. Second hairnet.
Hey, you're distracting us from getting to Julie Ann Genter. This is the bullshit we do in the second half of the show, not the important
part. Tell her to come back a different day. We have to get to the bottom of this. Where did this happen?
You're also cutting me short because before we get to Julie Ann Genter, we want to say huge thanks and a congratulations to you people who have got involved in our merch drop this week, which is also doubling as a fundraiser for Women's Refuge. I think in the last 24 hours, we're paying for about 8 safe nights, which is amazing. So well done. We've opened up the merch, and we normally do a charitable drop for a group, and we're doing Women's Refuge based around the fact that Women's Refuge are one of the best groups, most obvious groups looking after vulnerable women, and we all know that when your money gets fucked with, there is more of a chance that you can become vulnerable. So a 2-for-1, we're working with Women's Refuge. And down the bottom here, you can see some of the Women's Refuge sort of coloured buffer gear. That's their colours, purple and yellow. But because I know that lots of you were waiting for some of the other gear we had, what I've decided is that every hoodie that's sold, any hoodie out of the range, including the buffer ones, for every hoodie that's bought, we will donate 1 safe night to Women's Refuge, and for every 2 t-shirts that are bought. And again, as we said last night, it doesn't mean one person has to buy 2 t-shirts. If someone buys a t-shirt in Oamaru and someone buys a t-shirt in Levin, we go, hey, you've each contributed half a safe night. And if we get to the end and we've got 50 and a half, we'll just be awesome. We'll round it up to 52 because that's just kind of how we roll, actually. We're just awesome like that. We'll make it 52. So bigatnshop.nz, and as we always say, if you've got a little bit of cash but not enough to buy merch, then just go straight to Women's Refuge. The link is right there on the front of the page, safenight.nz. In fact, if you've got $100 and you want to give it all to Women's Refuge and you don't really want a hoodie, then don't buy a hoodie. Just go give them $100. That would be 5 safe nights. That would be freaking awesome. So that's there, and we'll be doing this all through May. So any hoodie, any 2 t-shirts that are purchased in May gives us a chance to donate a safe night to Women's Refuge to help vulnerable women in their times of need. Right. We've got other stuff coming up. I've got a fantastic Piers Morgan for you tonight, Chewie. Oh, it's so good. It's so terrible. Makes it so good.
I love it when you say it's for me.
Yeah, it's for you. Just you.
I'm going to get real angry.
Okay, good. We appreciate that. Let's welcome to the show from the Greens. It is Julie Ann Genter. Julie Ann, hello, welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Kia ora. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. We were just saying, Chewie, Julie Ann's doing her Gary's Economics look tonight as we talk. With the background there going on, it's pretty. And we are sort of.
I'm not wearing a hoodie. I thought about wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
But I just stayed in my clothes from Parliament earlier.
Julie Ann, I wanted to ask you quite a specific question to start off with. Obviously, we want to talk to you about the Equal Pay Act. We played a clip last night, which was a backbench Erica Stanford saying this.
I want to acknowledge tonight the Minister, Julie Ann Genter, who has done an exceptional job. She did an exceptional job earlier answering our questions and done a great job shepherding this bill through the House, and I commend her for that. She's been outstanding. I do want to say, though...
Now, I don't know what happened to that Erica Stanford. We'd like to introduce that one to Erica Stanford 2025. But can you, obviously, back in the day, you were quite a spearhead of part of what was going through. What were you involved with and how were you involved with getting through this latest stage of the Equal Pay Act before we get to what have these guys done? What have these vandals done now?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think people had really forgotten that was my bill because I haven't, I was Minister for Women from 2017 to 2020, and the Greens in our confidence and supply agreement with Labour, one of the, I can't remember how many key items we had about 19 or something. One of them was closing the gender pay gap. And I had the Minister for Women role to try and address that. And we were addressing it 2 ways. One was, trying to ensure that public servants we were closing the public sector gender pay gap, and particularly focused on the ethnic gender pay gap in ministries. And then the other way was the pay equity. And so while National had already introduced some changes that, provided a kind of bargaining framework, we did a lot of work with labor. It was the Minister for Workplace Relations, Ian Lees-Galloway, and I working like hand in hand, basically hand in glove. Not like how the Minister for Women now has been involved. It sounds like she wasn't really involved at all. And the Ministry for Women wasn't involved at all. So we got the Ministry for Women at the table with MB, working on this. And there was a tripartite group, Business New Zealand and the CTU, and government working together on all the details of how this framework would work. And as it happened, I was the minister and the chair during the committee stages of the 2020 bill in July 2020. So it was pretty close to Parliament rising before the election. And because that was, of course, the time of COVID, we'd had a lot less time in the House for legislation to go through because the government was dealing with COVID. So we were working to really try and make sure we could get this stuff finished before the end of the term. And so that actually, the committee stages and the third reading were under urgency at almost midnight. But that was just because the House sat so little from March 2020 to July 2020. And then in August, there was a little lockdown and the election got delayed by a month. But that was another time. I forgot that Erica and Nicola said those things. And I felt kind of chuffed when I read it in the Hansard yesterday. Oh gosh, I almost forgot this happened almost the day before yesterday. And so what I would say is that a lot of years of work went into developing that framework. And we fought really hard, and particularly me as the Minister for Women with the ministry, we're fighting against the forces of the status quo, because within the New Zealand political sphere and government sphere since the 1980s, there's been, a kind of neoliberal framing of problems. And sometimes I think it's been viewed as though, which is how the current government views it, the most important thing is to limit the fiscal risk of the Crown, to reduce the amount that government needs to spend. And there isn't, the other lens, what the unions are fighting for, what the Ministry for Women is fighting for, is making sure that people in historically female-dominated professions are paid properly. And that's the price. And a lot of those professions are publicly funded because they're for public good. And, either they're employed directly or they're funded. And that could be in the health sector, Te Whatu Ora, it could be our care and support workers, people working in retirement villages, people working in early childhood centers. There's no question that if we pay these professions properly, it's going to have an impact on government spending, but it's also going to have a very positive impact on society as a whole. And it's the right thing to do.
I mean, because you were the woman in the chair, you are much more in tune with it. We described this last night, so correct where we're wrong. We've been talking about the pay equity being sort of twofold. There's the getting paid the same as men when doing the same job, but there's also the idea of undervaluing these roles in society that tend to be populated more by women than men. So it's kind of twofold. And then the question goes, why do we and we used a silly example last night, but why do we undervalue a care worker more than a rugby player? It's like there's also a societal conversation to be had over that. Are us silly blimmin' radio clowns from Dunedin got the right end of that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I sort of didn't explain that well enough in the opening line, is like, there's something that employers can do, including government as a direct employer, in terms of just looking at HR practices and hiring and making sure that women are getting paid the same as men for the same work. But there's also work of equal value. And that's what the pay equity process was designed to do. And so the Equal Pay Act, it was found when Christine Bartlett, who was a care and support worker who was earning like less than $15 an hour, took a claim, and it went all the way, I think, to the High Court, which found in her favor, under the under the Equal Pay Act that her work deserved to be paid more. And she was supported by her union to take this claim, that it wasn't about her not being paid enough for that job. It was about that job not being properly remunerated because of it being highly, highly female dominated. And there's this old example or joke, and I haven't actually checked it in a while, but apparently in New Zealand back in the 70s and before, a secondary school teacher used to earn about the same as a member of parliament, a backbench member of parliament. And that was when most secondary teachers were men. And now, of course, teachers, like it's almost 2/3 of secondary school teachers are female, and the vast majority of primary and early childhood teachers are female. And teachers' pay is, lagged way, way, way behind that of a member of parliament.
We showed this last night as well. I'm sorry to the audience if we're repeating ourselves, but I want to get Julianne's take. That there was someone who was fighting for the idea of sort of historical undervaluing of women in work, like in the more socioeconomic areas, in the lower paid jobs. And there was a young stalwart who was fighting to make sure we're clear that this equality, this equity pay is not just about job to job, but it's also about the undervaluing of people. And I don't know if you've met this young upstart. Her name is Nicola Willis, and this is what she said.
We support the simple concept that people should be paid the same for the same work, regardless of their gender.
So there's one.
And we support the equally important concept that if someone has been doing work and there are reasonable grounds to believe that that work has been undervalued or historically undervalued based on their gender and has been underpaid because of that, then they should be able to make a pay equity claim.
So I don't know what happened to that Nicola Willis, this young upstart, the rebel, the comrade Willis, who was in the fight with us all. Because the reason I think it's important to talk about the societal undervaluing is the reasons we're being told is, well, like there's a librarian considering themselves equal to an engineer, and that's
or an air traffic controller. Yeah,
that's not the be all and end all of the conversation. It's much broader. So we want to make sure that we're all aware of that, us included.
Yeah, and that's I think for Nicola and Erica and those women, I think the issue is that they may, in theory, hold those ideals, but ultimately their neoliberal ideology of limiting the size of government and limiting the amount that we tax the rich and that we invest in our people, and is what's holding them back. Because now they're just telling it's really just it's too expensive, and they'll argue, oh well, these claims were getting out of control and it was way more expensive than it should have been. But it's like, well, actually, no, there's a really robust process and employers are involved in that and it's adjudicated. And, so there had to be evidence. What they've done, yesterday with the Equal Pay Amendment Bill, or now Act, is they've made it much harder. They've deliberately tried to put more power in the hands of employers, and specifically because they are an employer or a funder of employers and they don't want to pay for it. It's that simple.
You mentioned when you guys were doing this, including the Ministry for Women and other groups, it seems that the national government didn't really even include their own caucus or ministers around this, because National briefed its MPs 2 days prior to the pay equity announcement. The National Party leadership briefed its MPs 2 days in advance of the government's announcement to overhaul the pay equity scheme that makes it tougher for women to lodge claims. So this was, I know that they were investigating a couple of times last year, but the actual decision, that tells us, wasn't even talked about around the cabinet table. This is, I've got to use an example. This is like mum and dad coming home and going, by the way, we've sold the house to the kids, like no consultation at all. But yeah, I know this seems obvious now because we've talked about it and we've had economists talk about it, that they are trying to plug holes in their budget. That's the only reason they've done this. And this just speaks to that again, because nobody knew, not even the ministers, not the MPs, nobody.
Well, I think the ministers knew, but definitely MPs didn't.
Right.
And it sounds like, from what I was reading, they weren't working on it in earnest until the very end of last year. So it's only been about 4 months, and that's why there hasn't been any in-depth analysis of, no regulatory impact statement, not really any due diligence. And the reason they've tried to keep it so secret is actually quite cynical, and it's quite bad faith, because, government is making legislative decisions that affect a process that affects them and their rights as an employer and as a funder. So they've just legislated without letting the other people who were involved in those bargaining claims with them to completely undercut those claims. And they did it deliberately, and they've said so, so that there wouldn't be early settlement of claims, so that there wouldn't be additional claims. It's like, oh, if the people we were negotiating with knew that we were going to do this, they might have actually tried to resolve the claims faster so they would get the pay that they deserve. And they've said, they said that.
Yeah. Chewy.
It's dark.
It just strikes me as being so cynical, just layers and layers of cynicism here. One thing I want to ask you about, because this seems to be what the government is, as far as singing from the same song sheet, this is what they're saying, that the legislation as it stood was unworkable. It was too complicated. It had crept away from its core purpose. Now, of course, because they've rushed us through under urgency, we can't examine that at all. What do they mean when they say it's unworkable?
They're just trying to come up with excuses. But I mean, it's so ridiculous, because if you look at the cabinet paper that Nicola Willis, as the Minister for Public Services, took last year to cabinet, and that's publicly available. So this was, I don't know, in the first half of last year, in 2024, when she was still the Minister for Public Services. She took a cabinet paper called Pay Equity Reset. And in it, in the first few, like in the executive summary, right up front, it's like, look, there's problems with this regime because it's costing us too much. That's what it's, I don't have a printout with me here. I had it in the house and I referred to it and read some bits from it in my third reading speech. But it's just right there in black and white. The problems with the regime from their point of view is that it was resulting in people in these female-dominated professions getting too much pay from the government's point of view, because they want to have.
Okay. Wow.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay, cool. Because I saw
landlords were having to pay too much tax, so we can't pay the nurses and the wives and the teachers more, because we've got to give that money back to the landlords who are just sitting on those assets, or highly leveraged and making more money off it. And also their big thing about bringing down interest rates, by crashing the economy, which also increases unemployment amongst the most vulnerable people. And then you kick those people off benefits, make it harder for them to access social services so that you can keep wages low and people are desperate. So you're benefiting the employers, but also you try to bring down interest rates by crashing the economy. And who does that help? The highly leveraged property investors.
Yeah. And this is the thing we've been saying here again and again and again. Like, we're going to talk about Christopher Luxon, his pre-budget speech today, who said we're living beyond our means. The means is an arbitrary line that the government decides to draw across for how much money there is. I mean, like, I would suggest to Mr. Luxon, if he didn't take out $14 billion of tax cuts and $3 billion of land rules reimbursements and $200 million back to the tobacco industries, would we then be living within our means? I suspect the answer is yes. But because they've given all that money back or away or refunded or reimbursed, whatever word you want to use, now we don't have enough money to live within our means. It doesn't much sound like the party of business to me.
Yeah, and ironically, it's the party of the
monkey
property
business
class. You know what I mean? Like it's the party of the rentiers, the people who inherited the land and who own the corporations. It's the, you know what I mean? It's the ones who are, yeah. Anyway, so I think that it's just very, very clear who they stand for. And the irony is that, you know, if you pay these women more, because they're mainly on low to middle income ranges, and if you paid them what they were like deserve, and that's what the process was set out to figure out, what, you know, what is, you can't use you know, you have to use other professions, because that's the whole point, is that the profession has been undervalued. So you're looking to other professions, you're looking at the education levels, the responsibility levels, the level of risk, the kind of skills that people need. And that's what they're using to determine whether something's undervalued or not. And in the case of the care and support workers, they found they were earning 20% less than they should have been. So 10, 20, 30% less than they should be. But if you paid them properly, then that would flow through to more GST and more PAYE and probably like less public costs in some areas, right? Because if we had properly remunerated teachers and nurses and midwives, then there'd be less strain and stress in the health system, in the education system, and we get better outcomes. That's how we get a more productive society. We don't get a more productive society by giving more money to the people just sitting on property and charging rents.
I wonder, opinion-based question for you, Julianne. We have experienced, and there's lots of evidence of it internationally as well, especially in America with the GOP, is that once conservative MPs, ministers leave their profession, all of a sudden they find a conscience and find a heart. The example that we always refer to, because we talk to him, is Chester Burrows talking about what a load of crap the gang patch ban law was, even though he was the Minister for Police when it went through. The funny thing is, around the world, you know how that old saying is, if you don't have a heart when you're young, you've got no heart. Well, no, if you don't vote left when you're young, you've got no heart. If you don't vote right when you've got no brain, that sort of thing. The irony is you don't hear many examples of people leaving politics on the left and then finding a brain and moving to the right. But you do definitely see it the other way around. My opinion-based question, Julianne, is looking across that house at the women who have supported this, are there going to be many of them from the other side of the house that in 10 years' time, when they get asked what was the worst part of politics, they say supporting this bill?
I mean, I hope so. It's hard to know because the cognitive dissonance seems strong with the people on that side of the house, in my opinion, because, you know, they do sound quite self-righteous and like they believe the stuff they're saying, and I find it hard to understand where they're coming from. But I would hope that when they leave politics, they reflect and they're, you know,
embarrassed,
open enough to admit it someday in the future that it wasn't good. You know, like who was it? Was it Muldoon who said that he regretted attacking that upcoming Labour MP who was clearly gay before homosexual law reform? I mean, like Muldoon wasn't good, but like at least he was human enough to realize that was a terrible thing to do to a person, and regrets it.
We have a saying here on the show that Muldoon was our last socialist prime minister. So who knows?
I don't know if that's like for socialism, but
well, big projects that you're just crazy sort of stuff. It's just it's remarkable how much politics has changed in that length of time here. I'm glad you mentioned cognitive dissonance, because seeing the Minister for Women stand up and say that this was a good piece of legislation for women made me throw a chair through a window. I scared my dog. It was bad. That was just the strangest comment towards this.
But I think that's what they have to tell themselves to feel good about the job they're doing. I mean, I don't know if they really believe it. It's hard to tell. But like, I do believe that when it comes down to it, and I probably shouldn't speculate about what other people think, but I think like Nicola Willis has simply chosen her neoliberal values over her feminist values. And she'll try to think in her mind that, oh, these two are compatible. These two things are compatible. And, oh, they weren't appropriate comparators. But like, that's ridiculous. It's a robust process. It took many years to get to that point. And it took many years since 2020 for a lot of these claims to be lodged. People have been working through them for a really long time through this bargaining process. And now that's all been canceled. And they're like, oh yeah, well, if you have merit, you can apply again. But it's all just a stalling tactic to put off the cost to the future. And hopefully, as long as they're in government, they're hoping we don't have to pay people properly. In the meantime, nurses and early childhood teachers and many other people in these professions are going to Australia where they can get paid more.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to live here.
It sounds like a bit of a backwards way to do it, but before we wrap up, it's only because TVNZ considers this topic now worthy of 48 seconds on their breaking 6 p.m. news story. Let's just have a look at what they said about it tonight and see if there's anything else that we want to add to the conversation.
Back here, controversial changes to the pay equity legislation are now law. The government says the changes rushed through Parliament under urgency this week will provide greater transparency while still allowing women to lodge future claims for fairer pay. The amendment means 33 current pay equity claims representing thousands of workers will have to be started again.
This is a government very committed to pay equity. It's a government very committed to eliminating sex-based discrimination.
I thought about this as I was watching it. Do you remember how much he tried to convince us that this was very much a government that was looking to reduce the number of smokers in New Zealand straight after they cancelled the Smoke-Free 2025 and gave tax breaks to tobaccos? Now, this is very much a government that wants pay equity, pay parity for women, whilst they're cancelling or at least changing the legislation who's charged with helping achieve that. So, yeah, I don't think Mr. Luxon's learned two things. One, there's cameras that record everything you're saying. We can reflect back on how this has been said before. Or two, is that you need to come up with another answer when you're cancelling something that obviously is doing the opposite of what you're saying it's doing, in my humble opinion.
This is a government very committed to pay equity. It's a government very committed to eliminating sex-based discrimination. But it's also about making sure we're making some common sense adjustments, essentially to get it back to what was proposed under the last National Government in 2017.
The changes are forecast to pocket billions of dollars in savings, with the ACT Party saying the move helped save the government's upcoming budget.
Yeah. The one thing we kind of like about ACT this time around is they've given the game away. We saved the budget. You mean so it's only about the money? Can't quite say that, but we saved the budget. There was a point brought up there that Peter's asked us something about Julianne, so I'll direct the question to you. How accurate or not is the government's claim that this change is just reverting back to 2017? Thanks for your question, Peter.
Well, that may be true, but definitely in 2017, they would have been like trying to limit the impact of future claims. So, because they just had to pay out the care and support workers, and it was quite substantial. I think it was like $2 billion in that budget to deal with that. So the reason we amended the legislation was to have like a process that would actually deliver pay equity, like it would actually, like people could be able to take claims and get somewhere with them. And that's how they've fixed it. They've fixed the problem of it costing too much by making it harder for women to get pay equity.
Yeah.
And they canceled those 33 claims.
Yeah,
so there were 33
the 33
claims in process, some of which would have been very close to being realized. And I think that's what really prompted this kind of urgent move before the budget was because some of those claims had moved from being a vague contingent liability in the future to something that departments were actually going to have to budget for. Like, for example, in education, if the teachers, they were getting a sense of what they might have to pay teachers, and they just would have been terrified. And they would have been like, we don't want to pay that bill. So let's just cancel it all and they can start over. And we'll try to include secondary school teachers because they're only 2/3 women, or, like 64%, not 70%, 75, 90%.
It's funny how the parties of business are pretty keen not to honour contracts, eh? Like whether it's Treaty of Waitangi or whether it's this, it's like these guys who are all about business, they don't seem to take contracts very seriously, do they? Or agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one. on and on. We are thinking where to from here. Like TVNZ gave this 48 seconds tonight, which seems a bit of a slap in the face. And I know Chewy's probably, you've got the graphic there you want to bring up, hey Chewy, to remind people. But where to from here, Julianne? It feels like one of these things that we shouldn't and can't let go. But what will happen in a especially mainstream media cycle is they will start to, then if it bleeds, it leads. The next bleeding thing will come up on Monday and it'll be something else, and then it'll be something else, and then it'll be the budget. And then this will be us having to go, now what are the lists of things we were angry about? And it'll have gone into the background if we don't keep reminding people about it. Like we have, thankfully, for those ferries. Those ferries haven't gone away. So what's next, Julianne?
Yeah, I think the unions are really being active and organizing, and clearly the Labour Party and the Green Party very supportive. And I think that there's so many different professions affected by the cancellation of the claims that affects, hundreds of thousands of people, many of whom are like essential workers and are working in sectors where there's, they're already having a hard time. They're being stretched. They're being asked to do more with less. So I think it will be easy to keep reminding people of this, but we'll have to keep bringing it up and finding those stories. But, it's sort of like every time the ferries break down now, there's a story about it. And I guess, with the stress and strain in the health sector, and in education. This directly affects health and education. And those are two really important public sectors that are, I think, going to be a big issue for voters. And I think it's been really hard for National to say they've delivered. And particularly with ACT and the school lunches debacle, it's one more thing, where I think teachers and principals, a lot of principals will be on side with this because they know that their teachers aren't paid enough. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they can't pay them more because they're not the ones responsible for determining the pay.
It really is a flood the zone of bullshit, isn't it? I mean, you just put up lunches and we've been on that lunch thing for a long time, but that didn't even pop into my head around this conversation. There is just so much that this government is attacking or tearing apart or making worse. And it maybe it's unrealistic of us to think about the media, mainstream media in particular, to keep on top of all of it, because there is just so much. You could do One News could do an hour show every single night on what's going on at the moment in that cabinet room on the 9th floor.
And that would, I think, we'd have a much better democracy if we had, properly funded independent journalism that could take the time to delve into these things.
Yeah. No, we agree, Julianne. What we hear you saying is Patreon for our Big Hearing News. We hear that as well. Yeah, we get alongside that. Yeah. I picked it up. No, I'm just kidding. Chewy, do you want to talk about what you're going to highlight for what's happening this weekend so everybody knows? Or is there anything else you want to throw out there, sir?
No, I think we're just going to jump straight to this. I signed it when there was, I think, less than 1,500 signatures on it. It is currently just a touch under 50,000.
Nice.
In just a couple of days. I have put the link up in the chat. If you haven't signed it, sign it. Sign it. Also, a range of protest action right throughout the country. Tomorrow, PSA's website for that. Here in Dunedin, it's 1:30 in the Exchange. There are a lot of extra locations that have been added since we mentioned it yesterday. Right. And I think that is pretty much because I haven't seen social media so heated about an issue for a while. And I think the bleed through out of my particular echo chamber is notable. Like, this has pricked up the ears of people that perhaps haven't engaged in anything to do with this government to this level before.
We were surprised. I was surprised, Julianne, on the night, I think it was Tuesday night that it all started, how angry the reporters sounded. Jenna Lynch felt like she was about to pop a foo-foo valve. Like, the actual questions coming from the reporters had some stank on them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and have you seen like the opinion piece by Janet Wilson? I think that was in the Post or stuff. Former press secretary, media advisor to the National Party. Just absolutely slamming them. I think she said something like, I'm not sure if the political expediency is due to, or is the product of cynicism or idiocy.
Yeah.
And, Audrey Young, a lot of people who've been very, pretty positive about the government, extremely critical about this decision. The only one I think saying it's a good idea was Mike Hosking.
Wow. What more could you say? Perfect.
One thing I didn't bring up about this is that, ACT, from what I've seen, ACT, and I think Janet Wilson actually got these numbers out, ACT has very little support amongst women. They have almost no women voters.
You surprise me.
And National has very low support amongst women, like much lower than their overall support. So this maybe they thought they have already gone as low as they will with women voters, and so they don't, they're not worried about this.
I had a meeting with someone today who I've used as a bit of a place to, I'm trying to spell a word and talk at the same time. I can't do this. About connecting me with someone to help me in my Te Reo, and he talked about doing a select committee submission for the Treaty Principles Bill. And he said his observation was that the only people he saw making submissions supporting it were white men. Not women, white men were the ones that were supporting. So, it kind of goes without saying, doesn't it?
But I think, the thing is that men are also affected by these decisions. Men who work in these
100%.
fields are also going to miss out on the pay increases. And of course, there's lots of men who care about our society and care about women being paid fairly. So, and realize it's just like, it's ridiculous. So I think it will cost them politically. And, but the problem is we can't solve the problem in the short term for all those workers who are going to be affected by the legislation that disestablished those claims. And now they have to start over if they can even make the first hurdle now that it's been raised. There's also the Wildlife Act changes, which went through under urgency.
Killing Kiwis for fun, just knocking them off. The day after, there's a one news story about, I think it's a little spotted kiwi again being released in the South Island, like 20 of them or something. And the day before that, government's like, hey, you want to wipe a few of those kiwis out for a road? Yeah, that's all right. If you need to do that, go for it. Unreal. But before we go, because you brought it up, so it's your fault. No, you brought it up. National has the support of just 28% of women and ACT 4.5%. Add age to the equation and the contrast is clear. Under 20% of 18 to 49-year-olds, 18 to 49-year-old women support National, while only 1% in the same category support ACT. While female voters 50 plus stand at 34.5% for National, but still only 8% for ACT. So yeah, maybe they don't care about that because they're not going to get any more voters. So if we need another 400K for our capital expenditure, sweet. The other guys can deal with that. Maybe. Although I got to say, Julianne, I think the one of the areas that don't participate in politics well is the left. So if this is not going to impact their vote because women hate them, hopefully it'll put a flame under some women on the left to get them out and get them engaged, because that's what the left needs. It needs people to be engaged on these things, not just kind of go, I hate the right, and then, or just not be involved at all. So let's see if we can light a fire with it.
Yeah, and another thing people can do, you mentioned the protests and the petition, which I think is really good, but also anyone can join a union. And I think the unions they're really important. They've been really important institutions pushing forward equal pay and pay equity in the past decade or two. And I think if we had a more unionized country, we would have better employment law, and we would have, it's important, something to consider.
All right, Julianne, it's been an absolute pleasure. We haven't had you on for a while, so thank you for jumping in and coming to say g'day. I guess you can now go to your child or children who have been looking for you, or have we got them to sleep?
Probably asleep now.
Okay, cool. So thank you thank your partner for us, and thank your party for us, and thanks for being involved and coming and saying g'day tonight. We appreciated it.
Always a pleasure. Have a great night.
Thanks, Julian. All the
You
best.
too, champion.
Hey, just before we get off this, Chewy, let's just put this up there now. This is from Scoop. Auckland, 1 p.m. outside Minister Brooke Van Velden's electorate office, 35 St John's Road, St John's. Hamilton, 1 p.m. outside Tama Potaka's electoral office, 109 Ross Trevor Street. Tauranga, 12:30 Red Square, aptly named Red Square, Spring Street. Fielding, 1 p.m. outside MP Sue's Redmayne's office, 51 Ferguson Street. Levin, Saturday for Levin, 1 p.m. outside Tim Costley's electoral office, corner of Bath and Oxford Street. Nelson, Saturday as well, 11 a.m. March meeting at Miller's Acre car park on Halifax Street. Rolleston, Canterbury is tomorrow, 1 p.m. outside Minister Nicola Gregg's electoral office. Shop 34, Rolleston Square, 9 Macefield Drive. Timaru is tomorrow, 1 p.m. outside Minister James Meagher's electoral office. You see, I looked at the comments he put on our Facebook, and you know what I wanted to write back to him? I went, oh, you little bitch. But I didn't. I withheld. Because he said something
Got to keep our powder dry for the live
well,
show.
no, because you asked him to come on, and he said something like, oh, I haven't got time. I'm off doing things that are achieving nothing. And I just wanted to go, oh, you little bitch. But I typed.
See that.
Yeah, he replied. I typed it, and then I went, oh, I've got to be a grown-up. I hate it when I'm a grown-up. I get to tell everybody on the show about it, so I can still get the comedy effect for it. And finally, Dunedin tomorrow, 1:30 The Exchange, as Chewy has said. Right,
I think with that Christchurch one, there is an important change here. It's been mentioned in our chat a couple of times.
Okay.
Christchurch people, Minister for Women is speaking at an event tomorrow about the gender pay gap.
Oh, piss. That's
9
a joke.
till 11. 9 a.m. till 11 tomorrow at 57 Kilmore Street in Christchurch.
I mean, like that, honestly, you're talking about the Onion. How can anyone from the government, especially the Minister for Women, in this current climate, deliver a gender pay gap speech, unless you're saying doesn't really exist, folks? You know, unless that's the speech, it makes no sense whatsoever. Holy mackerel.
And I can see Hadron Collider kicking off in the chat because they got beaten to the punch by 2 minutes. So yes, your comment is there as well, Hadron. It's a team effort. We're all pulling in the same direction.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like they're scrapping over there. That's not very good. What's happening, people? Okay. Let's get to some of these super chats and stuff. Thank you for being patient with us. And let's see what we've got to say. Surprise, says Kiwi Bird. Unhappy Mother's Day from the Coalition. Excel, dear.
Terrible optics.
If Luxon paid tax on his housing sales, could we have paid these payout? And it's a very good question. I'm just a little bit
about living outside of your means, right? We wouldn't have to worry about this if we all had the ability to pull in over $1 million of untaxed profit. We're just dumb.
Kai Matara says, a reminder, repealing the Equal Pay Act is enabled by Winston's transphobia and Luxon's stripping prisoners' voting rights away. This happened in 1893. Again, in 1893, when migrants, a lot of Māori, poor, gender non-conforming and disabled women weren't allowed to vote, they were excluded from womanhood. Peter says we need urgency reform, like a mandatory sunset clause on legislation passed under urgency so it can be re-examined under normal processes. That's interesting.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
That sounds sensible. So it'll never happen.
Do we do sensible though? Kaimatara says this is why dehumanizing prisoners, racism against Māori, hatred of migrants, hatred of trans people hurts all women. But instead of votes, it's now pay. Howie wants to know, are we just being magged? I think because of our voting system, like I don't think we've been full magged. And part of that is because of MMP, and I've said this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. The MAGA part of New Zealand, well, NAGA, New Zealand, NZAGA, only needs to get between 10 and 12% of the vote to have a presence, where in America it needs to get, not quite 50% of the vote, but 50% of the people responding. So I think that gives, and I'm not standing up for national here, but it gives a political party the ability not to go full MAGA, because those guys can be farmed off to ACT and New Zealand First. We'll just stay a little bit less MAGA. Unfortunately, then Winston and David Seymour dog walk the National Party into their MAGA perspectives. So, Exaldia says, be safe in Auckland. It's forecast to be very wet tomorrow, so protest, but be warm and dry. It's always funny watching people on the North Island talking about stay warm during the day. Yeah, all right. Nzaga, New Zealand are good, all right, or something. Anything else, Chewy? Anything else to get in there or out there or up there or down there?
No, I think that's it. Oh, no, I do have something. Look, we're talking a lot about angry women at the moment. I love history. This is my favorite bit of pissed off women getting shit done history. Remove that and we'll add that. 1975, Icelandic women's strike. 24th of October 1975. Basically, all Icelandic women went on strike. They walked off their jobs. They refused to do child rearing, cooking their husband's dinner, any of their wifely duties. They were just like, nah, you don't value us. The very next year, there were sweeping changes to pay equality. And they still commemorate that to this day.
Wow.
So I'm going to put that in my little box, my little...
your President Chewy box.
What I don't know, like a dream journal or something like that. Pin it to the wall.
Vision board.
Chewy's vision board. That's what I was looking for. Of why strikes are good.
Yeah.
And get shit done. I think we are rapidly approaching the need for something pretty close to a general strike.
Well,
and I know there are rules around it and blah, 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 blah. But people aren't listening to us.
Yeah, but if we follow the rules and they go, screw the rules, you know what I mean? Like, I was talking to someone today and we were talking about David Seymour, and, we talked when Bomber's show got canned and stuff, we talked about what that actually meant. And what it actually meant is we can now, and I know that everybody knows this and knew this, but we can now more tangibly anchor to the people who scream, it's about free speech, that it's not, because we've found a topic where they won't stand up for speech they disagree with, and that's speech around Israel. So they won't do it, and we found it. And remember, Chippy said to us that, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, when they, meaning the right, talk about bipartisan bills, what you do is you turn up to their office and they go, this is the bill, you agree with us, eh? That's their form of bipartisan. When I was talking to someone about that today, we talked about David Seymour, and he said to me, it's like when David Seymour goes, I want to have a conversation about this. And then every single person who tries to have a conversation with him with the opposing view gets minimized and gets told no. So that's not a conversation, David, right? A conversation is give and take if you actually did believe it, which you don't, because as soon as you have someone who says something you disagree with, you minimize them or you dismiss them and hand wave them away. So what you're actually saying is, I want people to hear my voice. You're not looking for a conversation. And I think that you'll find more and more militancy in some people on the left who have been a bit more, not placid or timid, like Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks. Like, he was going through a thing in the last 12 months, for those of you who watch it, about, having a beer after you debate with the opposing view. Look, I'm not standing up for the Young Turks at the moment. There's some serious problems there, but you can quite clearly see that Cenk is starting to revert back to, these guys aren't going to have conversations with us. He's taken a long time to learn that, and I think you'll see a growing number of people on the left that might have been polite and might have been, well, let's all share our views, to being like, fuck off, you don't want to have an honest conversation. you're a dishonest actor, and you're now gonna hear my voice. We've spent the last 2 years with this government hearing your voices, and you guys saying you want a conversation when you don't. Yep, we've had it up now. So you're gonna hear our voice. There you go, Chewy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean it when I say that in the areas of social media that I travel in, there is a real palpable sense of rage over this. And I think a lot, well, all of that rage is deserved. But I also think that we're seeing it not just from this egregious abuse of urgency or the target of this legislation or the unfairness of the fact that it is both retrospective and just cuts people off at the knees of years of work putting their claims together. I think it is that whole point of this is another thing.
Yeah.
You know, I was angry about this. I was angrier about this. I got more angry over this. And now I'm fucking furious.
Yeah. But what you want to do now is you want to get that fury and you want to like seriously focus it. Even if you've got the one thing. I mean, if your one thing is a treaty principles bill or if your one thing is the Equality Pay Act or whatever it is, there's nothing wrong. Like in business, they talk about going narrow and going deep. Like if you're trying to do too much and you spread yourself too thin, sometimes you won't be as successful as if you go narrow and you go deep. You sell one product, but you make it the best product in the world. If you've got an issue, then go narrow and go deep. You know, other people may do the other ones, but you can go narrow and go deep if you have particularly passionate about an issue, and we'll support you on it. You know, even if it's not our issue, or even if we are interested in your issue and 3 or 4 others, but if you want to go narrow and go deep, you go for it, and we'll be here to ride your coattails, basically. Hey, Chewy.
Yep. Before we move on, there is a reasonably beefy super chat that's come in, and maybe we don't highlight it because of the hesitation about the use of the full name, but maybe we should read.
Yep, I saw all that. I mean, if that's the call you want to make, Cherry, I'm fine with that, and I'm sure he'll be fine with that.
Yep,
he
sure.
or she.
Very generous $50 super chat came in. I am going to read the pertinent part of it. I work at MPI and I'm seeing what this national government is doing to our environmental protections, and it's genuinely scary. No one's covering it to the degree that I think it needs. Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Let me say
very generous super chat.
Yeah, very generous. Thank you. Let me say this. bighearingnews@gmail.com. If people are working inside any of the agencies or have an experience that they know about that could help form a narrative, we are now officially part of the media press accreditation or whatever that's, I don't know what it's called. So, you know, we can take people as sources, which means we have the right to protect people should anything ever come from it, sort of thing. bighearingnews@gmail.com. If you are genuinely someone who could be a whistleblower or you know, has inside information, but needs to and wants to remain anonymous, we can absolutely do that. Happy to do it. And there is some other super chats in there, aren't there? I know we'll just take that one off. Don't do it accidentally. What about make Aotearoa native again? Mana.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know that one?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And Daniel says, best thing about today was the tank versus Tesla post. I haven't seen that. Could that be Whistling Diesel? That screams of Whistling Diesel to me, but
no, it's led by donkeys. I saw that come up on my feed. Led by donkeys, the quite creative protest group from over in the UK.
Well, just make sure if you're going to show anything, it doesn't get us taken down or taken off, or if it's not, you know,
it doesn't seem to have music. Should I put it on?
If you want, yeah, I guess so. Let's have a look together, at least the start of it.
Well, I've bollocksed up all of my windows.
Take your time, Chewy. We can wait. We'll just sit around and wait for you. It's no rush. 92-year-old World War II tanker having some fun in a Sherman. It's grand. Well, let's come back to it. You figure it out. We'll come back to it.
No, I bollocksed all of my windows up, so you can grab it.
Right, we'll come back to it. Christopher Luxon today announced a boost to capital spend in pre-budget speech. Capital expenditure. Now, they're being very nice here. They say new money set aside in the budget to maintain or upgrade assets, right? New money set aside. So money they didn't have a month ago, new money. Where could they have gotten new money from, Chewy, in the last day and a half? New money set aside in the budget to maintain or upgrade assets will be higher than the original forecast when the government delivers its budget in 2 weeks. He's saying we're living beyond our means, but what the actual capital expenditure has only gone up from 3.6 billion to 4 billion. So it's not a huge amount overall. But I'll tell you something from speaking to some people who know money much better than I. The reason it will very well be, probably almost guaranteed, that it's come from taking pay equity away from women is because capital expenditure is a one-off. You know, it's a hospital or it's defence. And so they can't commit that to be an ongoing thing because they're not going to be able to rip $1 billion off women every year. It's a one-off. And so that's why it's gone into capital expenditure. Well, it's a one-off this time. And I thought, Chewy, whilst I haven't listened to it yet, they gave me a fright. The News Talk ZB political editor recaps the actual speech. They didn't show any of it on TVNZ that I saw, and I couldn't find anything on 3 either. But maybe we'll just give this a couple of minutes and see what the reporter from ZB had to say about the actual speech.
Did you find anything in that pre-budget speech that was at all interesting?
Not really, but I honestly think that was probably the point of it. It wasn't designed to set the world on fire. It wasn't designed to really make everybody sit up and think, hang on a second, I've really got to pay attention on May 22nd because there could be something big in there for me. In fact, Chris Luxon took a bit of a page out of Nicola Willis's book.
That budget 2025 won't be a lolly scramble.
So she said that last week. It's not.
Oh, come on, dude. I know you're 12 years old, but this is being said for the last 40 years by every finance minister. It's not taking taking a page out of bloody Roger Douglas's book, if you want to keep going back.
Not going to be a lolly scramble, and it's just playing down expectations. The whole sort of ethos of the government so far this year has been things are cooked. The budget isn't going to be as good as we thought it was going to be because of the mix.
Who's the we in that statement? The budget's not going to be good as we thought it would be. I don't know about you, Chewy. I haven't been thinking the budget would be good. Who's the we that he's talking about?
Certainly not the royal we.
No, it's not all of us.
Of the economy and the books not being as rosy as they thought that they would be. So I don't expect any major big ticket items, and that's exactly kind of the message that Luxon was giving today. It's the exact same message that Nicola Willis is being conveying as well. There has been a little bit more, I say there's not a lot of money in the budget. We all know that there's a $1.3 billion operating allowance, i.e. more money coming into it.
Yeah.
But there's slightly more wiggle room now with these pay equity changes, but we're going to have to wait and see how much that actually...
So ZB just spells it out. There's slightly more wiggle room because of these pay equity changes. In other words, it is all about the money.
Is.
I'll make
more
all
than
of
10
that
billion?
clear at the budget. It is the case that the number of new initiatives in this budget would not have been possible without some of the savings we are making.
Jason, it's more than 10 billion, isn't it? Have you managed to confirm that yet?
Well, I read Audrey Young's piece this morning, and those were the numbers that she was throwing
what did
around
she say?
as well.
What did she say?
Well, she was basically looking back into previous budgets and talking about how much it costed in previous years in terms of what was against sort of the pay equity claims there and how much it would be going forward. I'm just looking at the numbers now from Audrey, and she says that the numbers going forward are in... just give me 2 seconds here. Audrey's
live
piece,
on
she
air.
says... Live on...
Live radio.
She says that in last year's budget, the figure for the current year was 3.7 billion, followed by 4.6 billion for the next year, 4.3 for the following, and then 4.3. That's about $17 billion over 4 years, is what she said.
I mean, that is huge, isn't it?
So correct me if I'm wrong, too, but what they're saying is cancelling what they've cancelled within equal pay could save the government over 4 years $17 billion. Can anyone remember the number that they said they were giving back in tax cuts? And then add to that the number they said they'd give back to landlords. Let me remind you, it was $17 billion. So what they possibly have done is literally got women to pay for the tax cuts that they also borrowed for, and for the landlord's reimbursements. Man, women are just so generous. You guys just give and give and give and give. And if they've found $17 billion, I'm saying if those Audrey Young numbers are correct, that is huge. How they've just found their 10 billion for defense, Chewy, just like that. Found it, no problems at all.
So easy.
Yeah, piece of cake off the back of women. We'll play a little bit more of this, see if there's anything else.
So a lot of change.
I take your point about Luxon doing boring economic speeches and that it's designed to kind of, underwhelm and stuff. But surely he wants to do. Surely today was an opportunity to say something to take the headlines back from the pay equity thing, which continues.
Oh, fuck off, Heather. That's enough for you. Why would you suggest that they have to take the headlines away from one of the most egregious acts from any government in recent history, in modern history? I mean, why would you even think that that's something that needs to happen? You can go sit and spin. All right. I mean, come on.
Oh, she's dreadful.
Yeah, dreadful. But that's interesting. That I didn't have that 17 billion number. But now we've got it, and so it's an assessment by Audrey Young, who's
It's
quite
a
reputable.
hell of a straight line, isn't it?
And how about the fact that if Audrey Young works it out and knows it, and we all take that as not gospel yet, but if she's given an estimation, then that means, of course, they knew in cabinet. Of course, they know how much it was. And just sitting around kind of going, we can't say, we don't really know how much.
Fucking run with it.
Yeah.
The government has spunked money up against the wall, been running around like they've had their fucking heads chopped off ever since, and then somebody has shat out the idea that we can get that money back from taking it from low waged women workers. That's fucking Disney villain evil.
Well, Luxon, you could see it actually. Caricature there is,
Sorry, who are we talking about again? Are we talking about Luxon?
Yeah, evil. Are you looking again for your condom photo? Condom head?
I may have made some changes just while we were talking.
I did notice you uploading your Facebook imagery while we were having an interview there. I saw that popping up. Was it Chewy changing his thing? Why are you showing my stuff?
I didn't do that.
Well, I haven't touched it.
That. I wanted to do that.
Yeah. There needs to be a little line down the middle there and 3 little drips coming up the top.
There needs to be, I don't know, more hats, more hair nets. Just a stack of hair nets.
We got told off. You weren't there the weekend. We got told off's the wrong word. When we made someone found it distasteful, and they were correct because it was distasteful when we replaced David Seymour's cone with a bunch of large penises. So maybe this is the kind of stuff after what you've just asked that deserves to live on Discord if people are going to change that out.
Discord is where the best stuff happens. Who told us it was distasteful?
Well,
I wasn't part of this discussion.
Well, you didn't come to the meetup. You never do. You knew it
Oh
was
no! Was it part of the Patreon meetup? One of our Patreon people said that did we stoop too low?
No, well, it was just a point that, and like I guess that it's sort of, and I think it's valid that, especially the one you showed that had veins and stuff in it. I think that was the one that was one step too far.
Oh, I'm to blame, am I?
Yeah.
That's fine. If the fig leaf that protects you, Pat, is I'm sorry, Chewy keeps on putting up the dick images.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
That's how I live my life.
So basically, the overall thing is, feel free with this image. Go to town. I do think there should be, maybe there could be some a couple of balls around the bottom of his head and a little segment at the top. It could look quite good. Maybe we should find some money and do a prize for it. Discord only.
Maybe we should find some money and put this image as a billboard somewhere. Have we got billboard money yet? Have we got billboard money yet?
I don't think so. We'll have to see.
All right. Okay.
Little chat here that says, if this is a stupid question, the best kind, I'm sorry, but what time period are these tax cuts over? It can't be 17 billion per year. I think it was 4 years. I think it was 4 years, which is why that other one kind of lined up so well. I think, though. But you're right, it's not 1 year. All right, we're going to keep going. And look, let me put out there straight away, some of you are going to be annoyed with this piece that I'm going to do, and some of you aren't going to like it. And
I'm some of us.
Yeah, but you have to stay. I am going to put in front of your eyes an actual white supremacist who's saying actual white supremacy things. So if that's not you, well, actually, she doesn't really. She just confirms that she would. But if that's not you, then the kids will see you tomorrow night and we'll see you on Monday. No problems. So there's this story in America. Chewy, you've probably heard it because it was massive on the internet. There was two stories actually going on at the same time. And the first one was it's a really sad story, a young sprinter, athlete, who got stabbed by another one of his athlete colleagues at school, and he died. And the media was he died in the arms of his twin brother, and then the boy who allegedly stabbed him got arrested.
I remember that.
And his name is Carmelo Anthony, and they have started it's the equivalent of a GoFundMe. It's called Give Send Go account for him, and it's up to $525,000. Okay. Now I don't have any commentary on that yet, but I'm just putting it out there. There was another story at quite a similar time about a woman in a playground calling a young black boy who had autism, I've heard about today, the N-word over and over and over again. Now, her name is Shiloh, and they've started a GoFundMe for her, and that's at $750,000. Yeah. Help me protect my family, because, of course, she's been cancelled and she's been this and she's been that. Now, I'm only telling you this because this is the preface to the Piers Morgan thing we're going to talk about. The story goes, basically, this kid here, Carmelo Anthony, who was accused of murder, right? Let's not beat around the bush. But they're raising money for him so he can get a fair trial. There is a sector of society who are scared he's going to be railroaded, whether he's guilty or not, but they're raising money to pay lawyers to defend him, as is everybody's right in a court of law, innocent or guilty. This lady has been, her GoFundMe thing has been populated by neo-Nazis, white supremacists, racists, basically talking about the Aryan nation and we must protect our family. So she's being rewarded for calling a kid the N-word. He's receiving money to help defend him in court. He may be guilty, it may all happen, but they're the two reasons behind these things. So there's a third lady involved. This is the lady. She is called Lily something or other, Lily Gaddis. She is the new neo-Nazi Barbie.
Oh, another
fascist
one.
Barbie, racist Barbie. But you know what? I know people think about that shouty one that's always on Fox News. They even speak the same. I'm not going to play this all for you, but just so you hear.
There's Mom Shiloh Hendricks going viral on the internet right now. She told
sounds exactly the same. Now, she did a X post, a tweet that's had 2.5 million views. White people are finally fighting back. Stand with Shiloh Hendricks. Shiloh Hendricks is the mother yelling the N-word at a 5-year-old at a park. So you have the background. I want to talk about a couple of things here. The first, and I've said this before, how Piers Morgan is no longer a journalist. He platforms a neo-Nazi and he doesn't know she's a neo-Nazi. He platforms a white supremacist and he doesn't know she's a white supremacist until about question number 3. Like, I read the tweet and I hear what she's about, the support of the mother shouting, and I go, yeah, she a fan of the white people and around her. And so I want to show you a clip where in real time, Piers Morgan realizes what his show has become. Now, the second part of the conversation is platforming people, because there's a clip from the end of the show, and we've had conversations here about what we do, but where Piers Morgan therefore challenges this lady to use the N-word on his show. Go on then, say it. Go on then, say the N-word. And I'll leave it at that for now, but it's a really good lesson why, blood on the floor, like for media, maybe not getting the most salacious thing out there is beneficial because it can be harmful. Right, that's pretty much all of the setup. This is like 3 minutes. You will get that she is a white supremacist from about the third word she says. Just think this is probably the biggest, if not the biggest, one of the biggest online news shows at the moment, getting on people who he doesn't know who they are or why they're there.
Well, Lily Gaddis, you posted a defence of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times, in which it was entitled "White People Are Finally Fighting Back."
Right. So that's all you need to know. Fair, Chewy? White people are finally fighting. So now we know he doesn't. He has no idea.
The famous Shiloh Hendricks. What did you mean by that?
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been
Enough? You got enough now? If you weren't clear then, you've got enough now? Yeah, Piers is still not quite there yet.
Systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges.
And if you weren't convinced already, we're well past. We are well past the idea. Piers Morgan still doesn't know.
White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on.
There you go. So 1 minute in, white unity was the phrase for Piers Morgan to kind of go, well, hang on, what? Hey, what? Hey, who's on my show? And then the next thing that Piers Morgan does is the most pathetic job ever at sort of then taking her worldview apart. And he keeps her on the panel for the whole hour. Just putting that out there. This has got about 90 seconds.
Just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the M-word, first at a young child and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. So I don't understand why what you've just said to me.
That's a very true point. I don't understand. Well done, Piers. Knowing your shortcomings is a good step towards becoming a wiser person.
Bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. Isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
white people
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech.
Bingo. There's the buzzword, people. There's the buzzword. How many times do we hear and read about particular international nefarious groups pushing in through free speech their messages? So there's the buzz. I know, Chu, you want to kill me for playing this already, but we'll get to the end of this clip. Then I'll give you a pop off and then we'll play the outro.
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the M-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
No hesitation.
I do, quite frequently.
You use the M-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
I just want to once again remind you, I know you're all clear because it's got his branding all over it. Piers Morgan, his team has brought this person on. He knows nothing about her.
I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
If you use the M-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding,
I'm sure you've already
helping white people
embraced
achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said.
Just to remind you, Carmelo Anthony is the black teenager in the other instance. So this is the thing. The thing is playing these off against each other, thinking that they're the same because they're both on the GoFundMe earning being given hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're trying to say it's the same. She's trying to say it's the same.
to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
So, Chewy, there is a point to this, trust me. There is a point to this, because we also are about to see in real time how that can harm, right? And from a media point of view, I in the past have probably been one of the not platforming people. Like, I sort of have a bit of a rule that I'll go on their platform, but I be very more reticent about bringing them on my platform. But when we've done that in the past, Chewy, you will attest to this, it hasn't been like a what? So hang on. So you don't believe in the vaccine? I didn't know that, as opposed to 40 pages of notes for the preparation. But Chewy, you want to go, so go, sir.
She's got a hell of a lot of teeth for someone with opinions like that. Like, first observation. Second observation, her first comments, her little rant that she went on. I've spoken a couple of times of my anti-racism activity earlier in my life. That would not be out of order or unheard of on the Stormfront forum.
Of course.
It's the sort of speech that would happen in the dead of night in rural Alabama in a shed with people all wearing their bed sheets under cover of darkness. Even they knew that you just couldn't roll like that. She's happy to go on a huge show like Piers Morgan and just say absolute conviction, absolutely sure of what she's saying, zero fear of consequences. And she's worried about her free speech. I'll point out again, I've said this before, free speech means the government can't throw you in jail for saying something. It's not freedom from any and all consequences for the things that you say. And this is why I point out she looks like she has a head full of teeth, which seems wrong to me at this point.
I also love, and we saw this with Posey Parker, and we see this with others, media outlets in New Zealand that call themselves independent while being funded by right-wing Christian fundamentalist groups, is that if my message was sitting comfortably in the world of that kind of person, I would be questioning my message. You know, why did literal neo-Nazis turn up to Posey Parker's protest in Melbourne? What is it about the message that they are attracted to? Even if she disowns them, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the people who, and it's a little bit like, you know, if there's a conversation going on around Israel at the moment, you can have people who are critical of the policies of Israel and what the IDF is doing, right? And then you can have anti-Semites. And sometimes parties may say, or they won't say the same thing because there's a different reason. But I guess what I'm saying is you got to be careful who you get into bed with. You got to be careful and got to check yourself with the people who are agreeing with your philosophy. You know, it's worth asking the question. And why are they not our side of the argument?
As far as Piers Morgan goes, I mean, it's great that he obviously pointed out the biggest, most obvious thing of like, oh, holy shit, you are an unapologetic, supremely confident in your point of view neo-Nazi that is on my show now, and this should have at any point he could have dumped her off that show.
Yeah,
at
that was the start of the show.
His production crew could have gone, oh, actually, fuck no. There's nothing. There's literally no benefit to bringing this person on for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like that timeline of things where people just go, hey, I've got an idea. Let's ask the Nazi what they think. No, we did that. We heard what the Nazis had to say in the 40s, and we all got together and we decided that it was bad and we should never hear from them again.
I also just thought as I was sitting there, my analogy wasn't particularly good because being critical of Israel is different from someone being critical of Jewish people. So it's not really the same argument, but we'll leave that. So it's not quite the same. It's not at all the same. And can I just say to Two Boots, not a fan of giving this airtime. It's fair. I said at the start, some people wouldn't be, but now we're going to go into the wrapping up part of it. And there is a lesson here for people in the media, right? Mark Lamont Hill. Mark Lamont Hill is an author, an academic, television personality, and he is the gentleman in the middle with the suit, jacket, and shirt on, right? So that's Mark Lamont Hill here. Now, I think this is really important for all of us to see. And for those of us in the media, this is important to see as well. Because what happens now is basically Piers goes back at this, Nazi Barbie again, and then he tries to challenge her to say the N-word there and then. And I want to show you an example, a really good example of why getting the tastiest, juiciest, clickbaitiest piece of content or headline is not always the place to go. And Mark Lamont does something brilliant here.
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, Black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you can.
This is the thing, though, it's like the right want freedom of speech so they can say the N-word. It's actually literally what we've said before. It's like I feel like the left talk about freedom of speech because they want to be able to discuss and debate and that sort of thing. That's how I see it, at least. But the right want freedom of speech so they can say the N-word. So I just wanted to play the intro part first before we get into the lesson for the media.
You will
go
not
on then,
have
say it. Say
you
the
will
M.
not have
Go on,
free
say.
speech.
Go on, say the M word. Go on.
No.
Hang
Don't
on.
invite. No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist, and I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there.
In real time, live on TV, seeing someone responding to how going for the blood, getting that great clip. Piers would have known that would have been a great clip if she had said it. They would have gone all over the internet. Is not just harmful, but harmful to someone sitting in there participating in the same panel. I just think that's a really interesting message and a thing to think about, especially for us. Maybe it's just for me and you, Chewy. Not that we run this kind of game, but it's interesting to think about where it can go and what it can do.
I put in the chat, like, for the people that are watching this, like, this stuff does bleed through to us here in New Zealand. There will be people here in New Zealand that agree with that dreadful woman.
100%.
And will look for the same opportunities to do so. I think the point of us playing it there is, A, it's shocking. B, it's so we can see signs of it here and fucking stop it. Piers Morgan's a contemptible piece of shit that is wrong more times than he is right. And for all of his sitting there and going, oh, this is terrible, and being an avowed racist is bad, he still let it happen. And he let it happen for an hour.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if that first clip was in the first, say, 7 to 10 minutes of the show, he should have been, bye, and she should have been gone. But he kept it there for the whole show.
That would be a clip that I would roundly applaud. Have you seen that? I'm pretty sure it's a joke clip, but it's a French show of, I think it's called Flash Debate, and they've got two people on, and one of the people is transgender.
No, I don't think I've seen
And they go, "Oh, so you were a man and now you're a lady. First question, are you happy?" And the person goes, "Yes, I am." And then the person goes, "Oh, yes, but the Bible," and he goes, "No, shut up. That's the end of the show." I want to see. I want to see that. I just want to. Yeah, on the Piers Morgan show today, we've got this person. 3 words in. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, I fucked up. Goodbye. End of show.
I think I may have found it. Is that what it looks like?
Yes, I love this.
I'm not going to play it.
So
I'm not going to play it because I don't know. It looks like it could be from a reputable outlet, and I just don't really feel like going through YouTube. What if I put it in the chat? I don't really feel like going through YouTube to get monetized again, to get blocked in 17 countries and yada, yada, yada. So look, as we speak, I'm putting the links in the chat.
A little bit behind the curtain for the viewers here. What about the copyright strikes that we've been getting all week from some fucking sports channel in Chile or something? What? It's super weird.
Yeah. All right, Fano, that's us for the week. It's been I've enjoyed the shows this week. Thank you for being a part of what we've been doing. Really appreciate it. Kiwi Bird says needs to bleach their brain. Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I said some people wouldn't have it.
That's harmful to you. Bleach a Nazi's brain. You have to drill a hole in the top first, but then it's all gravy from there.
Candace Owen hasn't given any refunds. I wonder if the Free Speech Union refund tickets. It wasn't the free. I'm onto this as well. Unfortunately, the person who's onto this is Sean Plunkett, and so I don't really want to. Imagine me giving you Sean Plunkett and that in one night. You'd all be gone instantaneously. Too much. Just one white supremacist tonight, please. So yeah, the story is Candace Owens had a gig, a speech, something end of last year, postponed it, put it to January of this year, cancelled it. People have paid money, and it's not the ticket company and it's not the Free Speech Union. It's actually the company that I don't know whether it's Candace's company, but the company that is running the Candace speeches hasn't refunded the money, which kill surprise. You know, dirtbags in that world doing stuff.
I have got a palate cleanser for the people that are stuck through to the end of that.
My camera's not working. I turned it on. My little one's down there as well. Oh, that looks just like a dog, only shorter.
It's my sleepy wee doggy. Look at the little tongue. Look at it. My phone camera is full of pictures like this, by the way, making it slower, but I won't delete a single one.
I still would like to. We get onto our design people after they've got married and stuff. About doing a BHN one with Nala where my head is and Ilva where your head is. That'd be quite cute, I think. So, all right, I think we're done. Is there anything else we need to remember? Oh, I want to remind you all again. It's kind of a strange thing because if we're in a podcast, you've probably just listened to the whole show. But we do want to support. Oh gosh, there it is. Women's Refuge, and a way that you can support both Women's Refuge and us is buying merch for May. I think I'll have some new merch up there next week for you as well. But any hoodie you buy, we will donate one safe night to Women's Refuge, and any 2 t-shirts that get bought, not that you buy, that get bought, because 2 separate individuals may do it. So put it this way, any t-shirt you buy will get half a safe night. So 2 t-shirts will be a safe night. And we'll do that right through May. And for some of these, I've already sent out the first order today because there was, a handful of orders last night. Orders that come in each day if we don't have the product in stock. Like we've got lots of blue in at the moment, lots of Nicky No Boats. We've got Chewy stuff in at the moment. We've got buffer, Tino buffer stuff. We've got BHN stuff. We don't have some of the other things, but I'm going to, rather than wait till the Friday and order them all, I'm just going to order them every other day. So you should be able to get it within 3 to 5 days of ordering it. And that's kind of about it. If you've ordered the rainbow buffers, by the way, they should be getting to you next week, hopefully, if you haven't received yours yet. There's a bit of a delay on some of the product. And the other thing, which is actually incredibly important, maybe more important, that if you don't have money for merch, no dramas, no troubles, bubbles, what you can do is go straight to safenight.nz and donate a safe night. Safenight.nz. They're $20. $20. And you can just go straight there. And even if you go like, oh, I've got $100 for a hoodie. I don't really need a hoodie. Then just give you $100 to Safe Night. That's 5 nights. Yep. It's amazing. We don't have any problems with that. So I think that's it. I think we're done, Chewy. I think there's nothing else from this side.
Sign the petition. Get out and protest tomorrow. Make your voice heard.
Yes. And Bright Hairy News will be in tomorrow night. And Chewy and I will be back on Monday night from 9 p.m. Look at Chewy's name now. It completely covers his little face. Chewy, what's going on? That's not right. We can't. There you go. There's the money maker. There's the money maker. And we'll catch you on Monday night. And if you're in Dunedin, I think we're going to try and get along to the protest tomorrow. Or is it a protest? Protest tomorrow at 1:30 at the Exchange. Yeah. All right, team. All right, team.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of.
I thought you'd taken over the chat. Where are you not putting up all the good nights? So you just kind of stopped doing it. I thought you were. So that's what you got to do, Joey. You just go through them. That one there, all sorts of things. Probably lots of swear words in that one. You know. Nothing else really to add, Chewy. Anything from you? You want to leave us with anything? Wise words of the Wookiee? The Wookiee's wise words?
Make Nazis afraid again.
Minifa.
You can't shorten it.
Right.
It's just it's the vibe.
Hopefully we'll see you guys in Dunedin at the Exchange tomorrow. You'll see the kids in tomorrow night, and we'll catch you Monday night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo, team.
Cheers, fam.